You are about to begin a journey that will enrich and enhance every aspect of your life. An entirely new world of possibilities and accomplishments will open up to you the moment you begin to develop your intuition. Developing accurate intuition is really a way of life that takes time. And like learning any new skill, committed practice always precedes excellence.
Thank you for listening to The Secret Society of Stuff with Rob and Chad. In The Little Mermaid, in the ocean, all the fishes, and some sharks, and the Kraken. Oh, the Kraken. The mighty Leviathan of the great open sea. Yea, came the Kraken. Woe is me.
Listening to the cassette.
Does that even come through on the recording? Tiny Klaus.
Hang on. I've got to log in and delete storage in my account.
Don't make me listen to Phil Schneider for 20 minutes ramble on about bullshit.
What was it playing?
How did Phil Schneider lose his stir? How did his hand get so fucked up? What happened?
I thought it was that one rock and roll song that we put on there, but if it's Phil Schneider, I think we're being fucked with. I'm serious. I think it's a joke. It's not a joke.
I was involved in something very controversial, almost totally unbelievable. I was involved in building an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to send somebody down there. To our total surprise, first of all, the government knew all about it. They didn't tell anybody. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up. The large alien grays had been encamped there for as best as believed possible about 400 or 500 years. And we drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk. Well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really. Anyway, when you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes and you use blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock to build the large rooms that are required for this underground base. In this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage you can imagine. The entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time. I reached for my pistol. I carried a little Walter PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This was in late August of 1979. And you're reaching for a gun. You're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and then to pop a clip in and start shooting. It's not the easiest thing to do. I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, all I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish. And kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt, burned all my toenails, crispy crittered my left foot, burnt the shoe right off of me. Still conscious, but didn't remember much. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets. There's a war underneath there, talking dead serious. Burnt my fingers right off of me.
I can't really hear you worth a damn. I could hear you on the phone okay. What do you adjust something?
Well, I'm trying to delete all this bullshit. So because it's saying that we're low on recording space, which is something that I've never fucking had a problem with before. Just 1 second. Okay, here we go. Size. Maybe more technology. If I add more technology to the technology that isn't working.
But hey, were you around when I co-hosted the UFO Twitter Week thing with Skywalker guys?
No, sorry, I missed it. I thought you left Twitter. I thought you were done with Twitter because Twitter was, what did you say, full of idiots that you hated?
It's a cesspool of ignorant idiots. It's Groundhog Day. It's motherfucking Groundhog Day, UFO Twitter. It's just listening to people bitch and complain and gossip about the same goddamn people. And I'm so fucking over it. I'm so fed up with it. The people that I actually intend on having any kind of outside communication with, they know how to get in contact with me, whether they're agents or not. And our buddy, should I say, I forget his initials now that I've quit running around yelling him in spaces every week. That guy.
That guy creeps me out. I think he's, I don't know. I don't want to call anyone like an agent of the government.
Yeah, you gotta edit this shit out. You gotta edit this shit out for real.
You know, if I edited everything, it wouldn't be a podcast. But okay, I'll edit it out.
I'm not gonna edit it out.
You can cut this piece. Just chop it right here.
Chop it up.
Insert Phil Schneider.
No one's entering anyone.
I gotta get in the beach. I gotta get in the sand and play and get everything in line. Hold on, let me have the other earbud and goddamn, get some water. Yeah, $3 Dollar General Bluetooth then or something, or 5 and Blues. Oh God, I can't hear shit. I can't hear shit. Is it Lilo? Are they the Lilo and Stitch Funko Pop? Oh fuck, I spoiled. Yeah, you gotta cut that part.
Hang on.
Okay.
There it is. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. There we go. So this guy Tiny Klaus, he and his co-host Garrett, they do shows kind of like we do, except they're not as funny. Fucking idiots, for lack of better terms. I'm sorry. Tiny Klaus and I were friendly in the beginning of UFO Twitter. We both did similar things. We were out there, just all the time, and we were chasing articles and chasing the next fucking link and the next YouTube and going and talking about it in places. And I was sitting there tweeting about shit, and he was doing the same. And, I had a woman named Benny.
You said a woman?
Hey, how many guys do you know that Rick Doty refuses to have anything to do with and calls sus other than me, Chad?
Like a lot. Why?
It's more than just me. Okay.
I mean, Rick Doty thinks everybody is sus. That's what he was trained to do, I think. That's counter intel. He's definitely still in the game, dude.
I think Rick Doty is sus toward everybody. No, I don't know that Doty's still in the game. He's on the Gaia payroll. So he's out there dicking around with fucking Billy Carson and all those goddamn grifters.
Yeah, for anyone who was unaware, that's the game.
Oh, no, I didn't mean the UFO game. I meant the weight loss game. He's really puffed out a lot.
Has he? Does he need to lose weight? Is that what you're saying?
No, he gained quite a bit of weight.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They gained some weight. Hey, do you want to interview John Strader?
From Pulp Fiction?
No, that's John Travolta. Vincent Vega, that's Travolta's character. John Strader is the guy who busted himself all to hell during X Games. I think it was one of the first years of the Winter X Games, and they had a sport at the time called modified, maybe it was super modified. Anyway, something modified shovel racing. They went down this giant fucking mountain on these stupid modified snow shovel things, and took a hell of a fucking tumble down that hill and busted himself all to fucking hell. And he was filming the shit secretly for MTV later on. No, he didn't die. It's a fucking million wonders that he didn't. He's got a fascinating story anyway. He's had tons of fucking UFO experiences. He's had some interactions with Pete. He's done one interview so far. I can send you links to that. There's like 3 or 4 different sections there to listen to, and he goes deep into his experiences and story and stuff. And he's also building a thing out, kind of like McGowan's little Range Rover thing.
What do you mean?
What's the the Osiris, the little Range Rover that Jeremy McGowan has decked out with all the equipment to go out and UFO hunt. The one he was on Skinwalker Ranch with that failed, like his equipment shit failed on him. He's building something similar to that, except he's using a big fucking SWAT vehicle. And he's got it all decked out. So he's got, just because he's
seen Twister too many times?
Well, now he's got testicular cancer and undergoing treatment, so all this fucking
I feel terrible.
he's doing the Uber driver gig to make money, and dude, get this shit. Let me tell you.
You know, dude, in a world where fucking, you can like fire a Hellfire missile with Ginsu blades coming out of it and drop it onto a moving vehicle from 10,000 feet in the air.
Are we talking about the Switchblade drone that one guy told us about that worked at Nellis? Is that where he was? Or no, he was at Sandia.
Regardless of where it fucking came, I don't know where it came from, but there's no way that 2 separate.
Oh no, that drone was Northrop Technology. That Switchblade was.
No,
I'm just saying the story came from that guy.
But there's no possible way that 2 people could take shots at the same man over a period of a couple of months and miss. And the press that he's getting off of it, like, have you seen the videos where it's like him just saying, fight, fight, fight? I can't look at those things and not be filled with, like, the most patriotism I've ever felt in my life. So,
I know, man. Same. It's
tough.
Hey, you were there. Were you there? Was that the night that we had the Jason Sands, a.k.a. Space, when we were talking your military thing?
Oh, yeah.
Trump got shot.
We have been getting a lot of stuff, but it's been in weird forms, like Eyes on Cinema, the Y-Files. Those are almost certainly like agency dump sites. Almost certainly, at least Eyes on Cinema is for sure, like a DIA dump site, because they had a date for which they had to release all information. And most of the information they had is stuff that they contained, like they specials that came out that they quickly bought up. So we're seeing a lot of information that we haven't seen. I'm pretty sure that AJ is just like a TV, agency or something, some film agency or entertainment agency that bought up a contract by the CIA or something. And that's what I think. Because if you look at the date that they started releasing UFO information, it lines up almost perfectly with the date that they were supposed to start dumping the info. The channels may have been around for longer, but they started releasing the info at the same time that they were supposed to. It's just none of the bill information specified where or how they needed to dump it, or even if they needed to put their name on it. You know what I mean? So they took advantage of that and they dumped it, independently. Like
is there any reason why they would do that to specific podcasts instead of like the usual journalism news route?
Yeah, they don't want people to know that it came from them, because that's where questions come from, right? Like, why didn't you give us this information 20 years ago? What's going on? Come on, guys. Like, what the fuck? They're avoiding all of those questions. They're sidestepping all of those questions by doing it anonymously, which is in the bill. They can do it anonymously. They just have to do it. And they're doing it via, podcasts and, well, not podcasts, but like video casts. There was probably some deal made where it has to be at least partially visible, or I don't know.
And it's almost now where like certain publications already have a narrative which they're presenting already. I would figure though that it's almost like the mainstream media isn't even like Ross Coulthart talks shit about the mainstream media so much. I love it. But these they don't have the balls to ask the fucking questions that they need to, or to like dig into stuff.
Another reason why they don't want the mainstream media to have information like this, not that them having it would make them produce it, because they're at the beck and call of whoever owns the station, but
if the mainstream news were to run a story, they would run it over and over and over again until they were absolutely sure that the public imagination had grasped the issue, and they were also sure that the cycle had been complete, and then they would move on to the next cycle. That is not something that journalists do. These are not the characteristics of a journalistic entity. These are the characteristics of a fucking cult leader. And it is always, always, always so very, very important to remember this at all times. Because if you don't, you will be taken advantage of.
But some of these independent journalists do. But I would think too, like, you're probably onto something too when you're saying like the channels, they've probably been identified and been like, okay, like they're not probably going to question or like really try and dig into who's giving the information, but more of just presenting the information, to a broader base.
That's exactly right. And Ross Coulthart, is the man. I mean, obviously, he really took up the mantle and ran with it. He didn't have to. He could have half-assed the job, but he did not. And I'm very, very thankful for Ross, like every day.
Yeah, he's made a huge contribution to pushing this thing forward. Jason, I've been trying to invite you up. I don't know what's happening here. So we're going to talk about Chad's Scooby-Doo plan to re-enlist and go do crash retrieval. See how this turns out for you, Chad.
I was given a list of MOSs. Can you post that, Rob? Do you have that image?
Yeah, I do.
Tell me what it is you think might be the best route.
I almost think it would be going through Arrow. Like, however we can get people in Arrow would be
I told him
helpful.
Jason.
Yeah, I got a couple of folks can keep tabs on that stuff. They're kind of being on the down low. Everything's kind of quiet right now. There's so much going on right now in DC. There could be any number of things. There's just so many different things going on. But I haven't heard anything about the UAP stuff other than the Schumer, that Schumer has pushed part of the narrative for the next NDAA for 2025.
They're really whoever's trying to control the narrative is really pushing Bill English right now to they're pushing him back in the spotlight. I don't even know if he's alive or dead, but they're pushing that narrative back into the spotlight. What do y'all think of Bill English? Do you think he saw the documents? I know that the biggest detractors say that he was just a sociopathic, pervert. He might have been. He probably was a sociopathic pervert. But I think that people forget that truth is at its core dirty and not perfect. And whenever I see something handed to me on a silver platter, I always question it. I always take a second glance because Bill English is not perfect. And that's kind of why I believe it. The government likes to use the whole buffalo when it comes to people's pathologies, especially the CIA. So I think that they would probably use a sociopath. I think a sociopath would rise quickly in the army or in the military. So I don't know. What do y'all think?
I'm not familiar with actually who you're referring to, but it would seem very likely to me now, seeing how some of this has played out with some of the figures within the community who have been known to be involved in the IC and disinformation. Somebody like Rick Doty comes to mind, where he could be saying a lot of truthful things, but because of the work in the past, it's almost like intentionally to confuse people in a way, that some people's involvement or some of their past or some, what they've done with their work is meant to confuse the situation for people.
Yeah. I mean, think about Bob Lazar, think about Adair, they're weird people, all the FBI stuff with Lazar. I mean, Bill English is no, people stop listening to him when he says that he abandoned his family for 15 years. I'll tell you the story briefly. This guy said that when he was in Vietnam doing a 2-year tour, he witnessed a B-52 bomber or something like that had crashed in the jungle, and it was full of just people who had been mutilated. I mean, mutilated. Their bone was showing. All of the cuts on their bodies were like perfect, and they obviously were desanguinated, and they were the whole plane was just filled with explosives and destroyed. And later, he was sat down in front of a Grudge 13 report. And this is the fabled Grudge 13, Blue Book 13 report, which actually tells the truth about what the government knows about, the UFOs, which is everything. I mean, they know everything. And Bill English actually has like almost a photographic memory. And also he's been doing this. His job at the time was he validated really, really highly classified reports. He had a higher classification at the time that he saw the report than the president. And he says that the president of the United States is essentially like a figurehead. You know, the way he puts it is, why would we give information to every hillbilly that comes in from Texas or California? You know, like that doesn't make any sense. Like there's no one man could run an entire government, and it's crazy to think so. He goes, but we run into problems whenever we don't give the information to them when they request it. So we do our best to make them feel like it's a joke prior to them getting into office. And we do that the same way that we do it for everybody else. It's by humiliating people when they come out. I mean, it's all in it's this report is crazy. If you ever get a chance to read or see or hear Bill English, it's amazing. But his story falls apart when he says, well, you know, they sent me home when they found out that I was doing conferences, and they kept me from going back to Britain from seeing my wife, you know, so I just didn't talk to her for 15 years. And they're like, oh, that's, you know, he doesn't see his wife. That's crazy. I'd be on the first plane. And so they say, oh, well, then he must be telling a lie. But what is probably going on is that he is a sociopath. He was probably planning on leaving his family, and he was using the circus of the government fucking with him as an excuse to do so. And in interviews later, he's trying to, you know, change the narrative. But when he changes the narrative, it sounds like it's made up. So people turn their heads and look the other way. But truth is always dirty. Truth is never perfect. People have to remember that.
Yeah, that's good points too, man. And I think of also what Jason has said with, you know, regard to the program. There's a lot of people that may be working on the same type of program, but they just might not be aware of it. I want to ask Jason, was there ever a case, or do you know of anybody who got like too inquisitive? Because I feel like there's a certain level of like, you can't get too much, like if you were to get too inquisitive about like what these other programs are doing or like sides of it, like you might, you know, there's like a certain recognition of people while they're in there, like, yo, I can't get too much, you know, trying to explore this.
Well, yeah, it's within the program and in special access programs in general. Everybody's trained on that need to know level kind of stuff. And if you keep on getting out of your lane and asking about stuff you know you shouldn't be, is a red flag to a lot of other folks. So yeah, you are kind of trained just to do that, and that's kind of how we roll a lot of times. So yeah, I've seen people get flagged and investigated because they kept on poking at things that they shouldn't have.
What's the craziest thing you've seen while in those programs?
Holy crap. I don't know if I should even say it. I've seen a being that I can't explain. It's like a nightmare in my head. Just outside of the stuff that you guys are going to be seeing in the film, there is another being that I've encountered. But man, it was just like a bad dream. It was about 30 foot tall. It was so strange. I can't even begin to parse how it all happened. But there's missing time involved and all kinds of stuff. But it looked like a version of Anubis.
You said you experienced missing time with the event as well, or a series of events, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I've had a few encounters with just, you know, craft, going to work, like when I was in the United Kingdom, still in active duty and stuff like that. I've got a little bit of missing time on one morning drive into work. And then there's a little bit of missing time in my desert encounter. And then there's like this missing time from another trip up to the Nellis Test Range with 3 other analysts after I was read out. And that's where this Anubis kind of creature is part of like a broken set of memories after I had to go do the dirty work for the program, just so they wouldn't do anything bad to me and my family.
My God in heaven.
Jason, was there ever like understanding or a talk or something where like people might have talked behind the scenes, like within each groups, where it was like if you get involved in this, you're going to get high strangeness. You're going to have weird stuff happen. Like, was there like some sort of prep that was done when working on these sort of programs that was like, hey, you're probably going to experience some weird stuff?
I think most of us have had high strangeness all of our life. I know, looking back at it, they didn't make that part of the, like, joining the crew in the 90s kind of a thing. I think maybe they already knew somehow that, my family had had some strangeness in it already. And that seems to be kind of common in that part of the program. I think that's how they roll into it. But yeah, just joining it was very kind of just me talking to one of the analysts that were already in the program, and we were going up for a totally different thing, up to the Nellis test range just to do our regular job, not anything to do with the program. And we just got to talking about Dreamland, and wouldn't it be great if I just knew for sure if they had UFOs or not. And this guy was giggling, and the whole time he knew that he was in the program. And I got along great with the other two guys as well. Didn't even know that they were in the program, so I guess they just kind of liked me. And within a couple of weeks after that one trip up range, I was invited to go in. Had to do a full scope poly with extras involved in there, so it was a little bit more than just a full scope. And then I was allowed to go up and do my work.
I just heard that a film was coming out.
James has really, he's been pedal to the metal the whole way through this because he had such a lot of losses. So he's been totally motivated. This looks like this is like his magnum opus after all the crap he'd had to go through from those people that messed up.
Every single thing that we do or that the community does at this point pushes everything forward. It's like the momentum now is so important. It's more important than it's ever been. And I'm hoping that people catch on to that, because this is when it happens.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great way to reference the topic to people who are just getting involved and learning about it too, is being able to show them this documentary. It's going to be so powerful.
When you went onto some base or some military property where you were going up, where you experienced the Nordic alien, and you had a crew with you, I don't know how many people, and supposedly, if I'm understanding the story right, there were people in the car. They sort of got knocked out when this alien craft came down. You met the alien with the uniform. Can you tell us what year that happened, and like how long you had been in a program related to that? What was the purpose of going up on that base where you experienced it, and where was it? And then the other topic that's of interest, I know, with people is, when you got involved in the forum, I assume was much later, like maybe when you were doing the disclosure thing in DC or something. I don't know when that was. And were you studying ufology intensely before that, or did most of your stuff come after you got on the forum? And was it just limited to people with secret clearances and government jobs, because you may have been out as a contractor at that point? I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. So the base experience about the Nordics and the crew going up range, that was just after I got read out of the program. It was some months after that, but that was in, I believe, October or November of 1994. It was bitter cold out, so it was definitely right around wintertime, and it gets really cold up there in the desert. So I'm figuring it's about October, November of 94 when it happened. And I'll kind of detail that details in James' film, so everybody will get to see that pretty soon. I think he's on track to get the film out probably August, September. So that takes care of the when. The cars that we were in were Chevy Blazers. They're all camouflaged, four-wheel drives. There's no paved roads, or very few anyway, on the range itself, on the Nellis test range. So you're up there just driving on dirt roads, and that's why we're up there. We were convoying with about 4 vehicles, with anywhere between 2 to 4 people per car. The car I was in the lead. I was with the ranking individual. I think I was probably the second ranking individual. And I was sitting behind the driver, who was the ranking individual at the time, and then we had 2 other passengers inside that car. And I never looked really behind me when I was having the conversation while I was experiencing this event in the desert, or this encounter in the desert, to see if any of the other people in the cars were noticing me or what was going on. Um, all I know is that I did glance over at a certain point and looked at the people in the car that were with me when I was conversing with this individual, because I was standing on the roadway because I thought I had to, save his life. I thought he was going hypothermic because of the color of his skin. At that point, yeah, I did. When I looked over, I almost laughed because the people in the car just looked like they were drooling on themselves, because they were like, had this very blank look on their face. And where I think, yeah, perhaps they were being, controlled by this entity. So that's what had happened. I'd say that the other details of that are also in the film, so you'll hear all of that when it comes out, and I don't want to spoil that for any of you guys. I don't want to give away any Easter eggs.
Easter eggs.
So that's the win. And the purpose going up range was because we, as a job, outside of my program job and outside of my telecommunications monitoring job where we tap telephones for the DoD, we would actually go up range and train the air crews that would come to what we call the flag exercises. And they could be any number of people from around the world, allies, partners, that wanted to train with us and learn how to dogfight with all of our pilots. And we would go up to the top of Black Mountain, which is where we were headed that day in the convoy. And on the top of Black Mountain, we have what we call a schoolhouse. And in there, we do what was called communications jamming. So we're kind of like gradually introducing jamming to the people that came for the training exercises and the pilots, so that they could try to train for a environment where the communications were degraded like they would be in a normal war, because you expect that the Chinese and the Russians would be trying to jam our signals and prevent our pilots from talking to each other and things like this. So that's what we were providing, was that level of training, and that was called just red forcing, not red teaming. Those are two different terms, by the way. So that's what we were doing for the day, is just going up to the schoolhouse. The encounter itself took place before we got to Black Mountain and before we got to a mountain that we know is quartz. Now, I know Dodie mentioned quartz and that I was communications monitoring there. There's nothing on Quartz Mountain, period. Zero. It's just a mountain. It's bare. It's a bald mountain with nothing on it. So I'm just using that as a reference point between the entrance that we would go into by a road called Fleur de Lis. Just after Fleur de Lis, there's a dirt road that takes you right into the Nellis Test Range. You just turn right into that, and then if you've got a green badge, you can get on range and do your work. So that's where we were. We were somewhere in between the first cantonment area, where you change your flat tires or get some gas, and there was also, that's where the video operators were that monitored everything on the range. That's where we were actually briefed on the UFO encounter that occurred the week before I went up there. So that's where we actually all got introduced to that UFO event when I came up the following Monday. And everybody in the convoy had to view that video. So everybody wrote their names down as to whether they had seen it or not. So somebody's got that, and that'd kind of be a really cool document for somebody to see, because that's all the people that actually saw the video that was recorded back in '94. So that answers the where. When did I get on the forum? 2021, I think it was. And pretty much you could be academia, you could be scientist, engineer, you could be part of the Intel community. And that was kind of the qualification, because there's a lot of collaborative workspaces, and this UAP Task Force Forum was just one of many that's on this one website that is hosted. And there's all kinds of different forums you can join, and one of them is the UAP Task Force Forum. So back in 2021, there weren't that many people, just a few hundred, I think, that were getting on there trying to figure out what these, images, videos, some of the reports that came in that were just, textual pilots and people reporting things, and that we were getting them and we were trying to analyze them as best we could. I joined in after that was generated. I think they'd already been doing it for about a year or more. I knew black programs, so I didn't want people to waste time on things that were in our inventory and I knew were government owned. So that's one of my expertise areas, and that was part of the Intel community. So I kind of added that to the mix and started posting on things that I knew about and things like this. So that's why I joined, and that's what they utilized me for. And eventually, I think it was in 2022, somebody posted the Nellis UAP incident of 1994, and I'm like, holy crap, I know about this. And I kept my mouth shut for a few weeks, maybe a month, and it just kept eating at me because I was like, this was just a trip to work one morning, and I could certainly share this with the folks, just give them some awareness because we're, you got the whole gambit of people on the forum already, people that, believe, people that don't believe, people that are on the fence. Everybody was really good about being respectful, all that kind of stuff. But we just honestly had some really great pro-con discussions and debates. I loved it. So I added my 2 cents on that one 1994 event from the Nellis test range because I knew about it. And that's when everything exploded. And then the UAP task force and David Grush and some other folks interviewed me for the first time. They had me detail out the star map that was given to me by this entity. They had me detail out everything else that, about the telepathy parts and things like this. And that's when I guess my track into becoming a whistleblower began as well, because pretty soon after that, I was introduced to some committee members from the Senate side of the House, and they asked me to come up to see them in 2022, late in the year, just as they're signing the NDAA and stuff like that. So it was a kind of a year or so journey. So that's kind of how I got involved in the forum. It's an insider forum. It's on a top secret network, so you can't just downgrade things. You got to go through a formal process to declassify stuff that gets put on it.
Wait. Hey, I just got a text from somebody saying, I'm pretty sure Trump just got shot. Anybody know anything about this?
What?
Yeah.
Ele era triste, nunca vi ninguém como ele assim. Tinha rosto quase branco, olhar de santo e banco de jardim, que era sua moradia, onde amanhecia e onde ele se guardava pra poder chorar, vendo todo aquele povo sem nada de novo pra mudar seu rosto. Pra se contentar, pra se contentar, pra se contentar. Ela era triste, nunca vi ninguém como ela assim. Ela nem sequer sabia como é que seria a cor de um banco de jardim. Sua face era sombria, mas um belo dia ela assim passava, querendo chorar. E ela em meio àquele povo viu algo de novo, viu um outro rosto, sem se contentar, sem se contentar, sem se contentar. E se juntou tristeza com tristeza.